We'll get that working. Joining us now at the mic, why don't you introduce the name, because you had it right during the break. You said got that Italian flair.
All right, yes I will.
Absolute Builders Handyman Services. And our guest in studio is?
Pat Stissi.
Yeah, Stissi. Yes, she is the owner and operator of this business located here in Vegas. And Pat, welcome to Vegas Unwrapped.
Well, thank you all for welcoming me here.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Cash, what did I tell you about that accent?
It's wonderful, but I love the business card too because it's catchy, and the reason for that will come up later in this interview.
Oh, all right. So I have to admit, Pat, rarely do we see women in a position of owning construction companies. So why don't you share a few minutes with your background with our audience, how you got into doing this, and why you have the passion for this type of business?
Well, I studied architecture in France before coming and also get a master in architecture from UNLV. But while I was a student, we had this great opportunity in my hometown to work on a huge project with international architects. And because I was actually already speaking both English and French, and we had so many international architects, I was asked to visit the sites every time that they were in town. And I ended up working in construction just because of that introduction. I always liked it. And even once I graduated, I actually never worked in an architectural office. I've always worked on the site.
You know, it's amazing how many people in a lifetime, they go to school for one thing, and they end up doing something completely different than what they went to school for, you know. So talk about your business. What kind of gave you the idea of starting this business? Now, is this a business that you started just here in Vegas since you've been here? And how old is the business?
About 4 years.
About 4 years?
This one is 4 years before I had a different company, yes.
Okay, all right. So why the switch? What did you have before that you then went to this type of thing?
Well, I taught at UNLV for 17 years.
Oh, you were an educator.
At the School of Architecture,
okay,
and did some classes in the Department of Engineering too.
Gotcha.
So I was fairly busy, so I could only work in the summer.
What was it like being the only woman?
Oh, well, yes.
I would have guessed that. I'm sure you weren't, but...
There's not as many women or as many minorities as we think in our college, but you know, once you have a passion for something, it's actually very easy to forget about all the little distractions. And it's not a little issue, but once you're given the opportunity to do something you really love, then everything else is a detail.
Absolutely. I would imagine that that your success in your endeavors might have some of the good old boys jealous. Would that be fair to say that?
There was some jealousy, yes, and including in construction, because a lot of people assume because you're a woman you don't know what you're doing. But because of my background, I could read the plans better than they could. I had perfectly good friends in engineering that could help me if I had any questions. So oftentimes the boys were trying to trick me, and then I was giving them even more options than what they thought they could do.
Very nice.
Well, you kind of just touched on what my next question was going to be, and that was whether it was an advantage of being a woman or not in this industry. And I guess from what you just shared with us, it's almost a disadvantage at first. But how is it an advantage for you?
Well, there's few things. When you have a single woman in a house or a condo, an apartment, she doesn't feel as welcoming of a gruff handyman coming into her house. But because I always come with all my crew, with any of my crew members on that first visit, they know me, and it's much easier for single women, for mothers, to know that, you know, their children are in that house with us, and that they can kind of trust us.
Gotcha.
So it ended up being very interesting, elderly people like that, etc. So
kind of has that soothing effect.
Yes.
That calming effect.
Well, it makes sense, too, because I know even in the industry that I'm in, that, you know, and you deal a lot of time with women, that they would probably prefer a woman coming up to the door rather than, you know, some guy that they don't know.
Yes.
Just human nature.
Don't start showing up on your appointments in a skirt, please.
Hey, you kidding me?
So, talk about some of the services that your company does provide for our audience.
Well, things like installing a ceiling fan, changing the valves behind your toilets that nobody thinks about, pulling your dryer away and emptying all the dust lint behind that
Oh my
nobody
gosh.
really wants to do.
That's great, right? Because I never, what are you doing on Saturday, Pat?
And when you're done with him, I walk across the street.
Just go up the block to Cash's house.
Well, you have to think that it's a real big source of fire in the valley.
Sure.
So if we don't think about, for example, cleaning up behind the fridge, you know, the dust that you accumulate there and things like this, checking your lines so you can see if it's going to leak or not.
Right.
That's important.
Sure. Absolutely. So what are some of the things that you don't do that other folks in your field might do? For instance, you know, I mean, I know there's differences between handyman services and general contractors and everything else. What are some of the differences in those titles, and what is it that you can do that those guys don't want you doing, or vice versa?
Well, the general contractors will work on big projects.
Okay.
Their costs are much higher than ours. So anyway, they will need to do a minimum of 3 different trades in your project to be able to contract with you.
Okay.
But they will do a lot of structural. They can build something from scratch. That
Okay.
means they start with the foundation all the way to the roof, etc.
Can they paint cable wires on top of buildings?
Nope.
That would probably be more of the handyman
There you
service.
go.
Yes, but the trades will be more like your plumber, your HVAC specialist, your
Okay.
electrician, because they can deal with both the underground, the rough, and the finished products. Of course, for example, if you have a problem with an outlet or switch and little things like this, we'll take care of you.
Okay.
You don't need to call a specialist if it's a garbage disposal that's leaks and things like this.
So it's more of the, if I can put it this way, more of the annoying type of work that one has to do around the house that they choose not to do or are not comfortable doing that a handyman service would come in for. If I
Yes.
want to build a house, I need a general contractor.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Gotcha.
But it's not always annoying. That means we do weather stripping, for example, of doors. We help people with their screens, faucets, blinds, things like this. And sometimes it's really, really interesting because people have ideas and they just need a soundboard, someone that knows what's happening
Right,
to
right.
help them. So you get to see really something change in front of your eyes and how helpful you are, for example, installing grab bars for handicapped or elderly people. And right away you can see how they change, how they're more mobile,
Sure.
and it's really, it really changed.
Sure.
It's a pleasure.
I would think that I was, you know, as I enter seniorhood, I certainly can relate to the fact that, you know, bars for the elderly, bathtubs and showers and stalls and things like that must be a thriving business.
Actually, not enough people know about calling us.
Well, they should. That's something.
Well, they will after this.
You bet. Because
Well,
I
we
think
welcome every call, but honestly, we like to help.
I think
really like
that's
to.
so valuable a service too.
Yes.
Now, with all the handyman services that I see advertised everywhere from, you know, on Craigslist or the signs on the side of the road and everything else, what makes your company different than all those other ones?
Not every handyman is licensed. And the reason why you want to be licensed is that if something happens, you can find them. Our phone number, we actually had the same phone number for the last 12 years. So we don't hesitate to, sometimes we receive phone calls, this is not working, I know you didn't install it, but it's adjacent to the work you've done, can you please help? And we always come, and if it's a little something, we don't even charge you, because we really want to build that relationship with people. We are an extended member of their family.
Right.
So when you want what you want from a handyman is someone that has their tools, someone that really understands that sometimes you can have a problem appearing and it's something completely else. And you want to be open to take the time to explore the issues and to explain to the client, the customer, it could be this or that. We will look at both of them and we will help you one way or the other. Don't worry, you're in good hands. And we have insurance. If anything happens, you're always taken care of, with or without warranty. That means even if the warranty of the product we bought for you is over, we'll come and help. So I
Great.
think that's important.
Now, you mentioned licensing. You have a different license as a handyman than, let's say, a general contractor would, or?
Yes, the general contractor is licensed by the General Contracting Board.
Okay.
And the handymans are licensed by the city or the county, depending of where their base business is
Gotcha.
located.
Cool.
I can't begin to tell you how important it is for these people to have licenses. I mean, you just don't want somebody to be doing handiwork that might have been standing in front of Plant World this morning. And I don't mean that with disrespect. I mean that in the sense that you want somebody that has experience, that knows what they're doing. I mean, I want everybody to be employed, but let's get the license and do it the correct way.
I agree. Plus, if you use someone that's not licensed and something goes wrong 1 week from now, 6 months from now, you really have no recourse.
You're stuck.
Yes.
You're stuck. You wouldn't call a plumber to paint your house, would you?
Not exactly. Plus, in all honesty, we are about equal in price.
Right,
So,
exactly.
Right.
if you're going to use someone for that type of price, use someone licensed.
There you go. The phone number for Pat is 702-738-8049, or you can email her at absolutebuilderslv@gmail.com. More with Pat as we step aside for a bottom of the hour break. You're listening to Vegas and Wrap with Phillips Cash. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Thank you.